Hey everyone, in this video we're going to come back to the story of Hercules from Ritchie's Fabulae Faciles. So we're looking at part 15 of the Hercules story, which is called The Fight with the Centaurs. So you might remember in the last video we were talking about the fourth labor, and then we have this side note of kind of what else had happened in that time frame. And you had the story of Hercules making it to the cave where he finds the centaur Pholus. Now, you might remember Pholus is really nice. He welcomes him. He makes dinner, but he doesn't serve him the wine that he has. And Hercules knows that there's wine, right? He asks for wine. He's denied. And he says, let me just take it anyway. So we ended that last chapter, you might say, with Hercules drinking the wine anyway, which is going to really annoy the centaurs because they'd been saving it. All right, so that's where we're kind of starting or picking up the story in this one. Before you dive in, though, like I always tell you, you want to look through the vocab. Make sure you have it under control because it's really difficult to translate without knowing the words. Then you want to try to look over any grammar that you don't understand. So I always recommend doing the read and reread method. So if you can read it once, take note of any lines where you're not sure what's going on or any words you don't know. Then in the meantime, after you're done reading it, fill in any grammar gaps that you have, look up what the grammar is, try to figure it out, and look up any vocab words. That way you kind of have a better understanding of what you need in the parts you're missing in the first read. Then you go back and read it again, and hopefully the second time that you've read it, it makes a lot more sense because you've kind of plugged all these gaps. So know the vocab, do the grammar, and like I just said, read it aloud. Try to find someone in class if you can that you can read the story to, work on your pronunciation, and if they can read it back to you, that's ideal. That way you can work on your listening because you are reading a language, and it's a story, right? It's meant to be read aloud, not just translated in your own head. So hopefully you've taken those steps and you're feeling pretty good about it, right? The kind of grammar and the vocab, it all blends together. Ritchie does a great job of making it all overlap. So hopefully you're feeling in a pretty good place and ready to translate it. So let's dive in. So it starts with similatque amphora aperta est, odor iucundissimus undique diffusus est, vinum enim suavissimum erat. So at the same time as, that's really what similatque is doing. At the same time as the amphora, the jar, was opened, aperta est. Remember, Hercules opened it up and drank it. So it's saying at the same time as it was open, the most pleasant, iucundissimus is a superlative. It's describing odor, right? Odor. So the most pleasant odor or smell, diffusus est, was poured out, right? Meaning it kind of escaped, undique, on all sides or everywhere, you might say. So he opens up this this jar, this amphora, and that smell kind of goes through the room, and it's immediately, a specific smell of this sweet wine because it is the best one that the centaurs have, right? They were saving it. And it continues on where you say the wine, right? The wine was very sweet, suavissimum, right? There's another superlative, right? It was the sweetest, or it was very sweet. So it's giving off a very distinct odor that you can smell in the cave. Then you have centauri notum odorum senserunt, et omnes ad locum convenerunt. So the centauri, there's your subject, the centaurs, right? They senserunt, they sensed or smelled, you might even say, the notum odorum. So nota means known or familiar, and it's describing odorum, which is a scent or a smell, an odor, right? So they sensed a familiar smell because they recognized that someone has opened up their wine. And all of them, omnes, right, everyone, they convenerunt, they convened, or they came together, you might say, ad locum, to that place, right? So they all go to the place where they can smell this, meaning they come to the cave. Ubi ad speluncam pervenerunt, magna per errati erant quod Herculem bibentem viderunt. So when pervenerunt, when they arrived at the cave, ad speluncam, right? When they reached the cave, you might say, they were, errant, very angry. Magna per errati. Magna per is your adverb describing them, right? They were extremely angry because viderunt, they saw Hercules drinking, right? Herculem bibentem. Now, bibentem there is a present participle, right? You can tell by the nt ending. It's just from the verb to drink. So you could even say they saw drinking Hercules, which sounds a little weird. It's probably better to think of it as Hercules drinking, right? But again, it's the present participle. You can tell by that nt ending, and it comes from the verb to drink, right? Which is bibo. It's just a present participle. So they see Hercules drinking. He's doing it while they're looking at him is the idea. Then you have tum arma rapuerant et folum interficere voleban. So then rapuerant, they grabbed or they took up arma, arms, meaning weapons, right? So they grabbed their weapons and they wanted, volebant, to kill, interficere. There's your complementary infinitive, right? They wanted to kill. And you're looking for an accusative. Who do they want to kill? Pholus, right? Pholum. So he's the one that they're blaming because they're like, wow, he either gave Hercules this wine, which he wasn't supposed to, or he let it happen. Either way, he was supposed to be protecting their wine. Then you have Hercules, tamen in aditu speluncae constitit, et impetum eorum fortissime sustinebat. So Hercules, however, he stood, and constitit can almost mean like stood firm, but it's the idea of like standing, right? He stood in the opening in aditu, right? There's your ablative, he's physically there, right? In the opening of the cave, the entrance of the cave. And he was bravely, fortissime, he was most bravely, you might say, or very bravely. Sustinebat means like sustaining is kind of it, but you probably want to translate as holding back is really what it probably better translates to. He was very bravely holding back the impetum, the attack, eorum, of them. Or you might say their attack. So he was standing, or he stood in the entrance of the cave, and he was holding back their attack. And you want to pay attention to the cases here, right? Constitit, he stood. It's a set action. Sustinebat is imperfect because he's constantly doing this, right? It's over a period of time. So he keeps kind of blocking their attacks is the image you want to get. Then you continue, you have faces ardentes in eos coniecet, multos etiam sagitis suis vulnerave. So coniecet, he threw in eos, literally it says into them, but probably at them makes more sense. He threw at them faces ardentes, burning like brands or torches, right? So he's got these burning torches basically that he's throwing at the centaurs, to fight them off. And also, he vulneravit, he wounded multos, many of them, right, meaning many centaurs, with his arrows, sagitis suis, right, with his own arrows. You have that reflexive there with suis, right, the reflexive adjective. So he's using his own arrows to wound them, which means he's probably shooting a bow and arrow at them, right? Then you have hai autem sagitai eidem, erant quae sanguine hydrae olim imbutai erant. So these arrows, however, right, high sagitai, you might even say these high, they were erant, the same arrows. Eidem is the word the same. It's describing the sagitai, right? So you're saying these were the same arrows, which quae, again, quae is describing sagitai, so all these words are going together using that same ae ending, right, that nominative plural ending. So these were the same arrows which imbutai erant, had been dipped, you might say, or had been soaked maybe, in the sanguine, right, there's your ablative, right, in the blood or with the blood of the hydra, right? Olim means once. So you might say they had once been dipped or soaked in the blood of the hydra. So these are his special arrows he's been carrying around since his first labor when he killed the hydra. Or the second labor rather, he's been carrying these around and now he uses them, right? They're poison dipped. So anyone who gets hit with these is going to die because they're not normal arrows, right? And this is what Hercules is using against the centaurs. Then you have, you finish it off here with omnes igitur quos ille sagitis vulneraverat, veneno statem absumpti sunt, reliqui autem ubi hoc viderunt, terga veterunt, et fuga salutem petierunt. So omnes, there's your subject, everyone, therefore, meaning all the centaurs. So everyone who or which, quos is your relative pronoun describing omnes. So everyone whom had been wounded, whom he, ille is talking about Hercules, whom he had wounded, it's pluperfect, vulneraverat. So everyone whom he had wounded, sagitis, with his arrows, right? It's just ablative. Okay, ablative means how did he wounded me, wounded him with arrows. So everyone whom he had wounded with arrows, immediately absumpti sunt. So absumpti sunt literally means they were taken away. It's like a euphemism for they died, right? They were literally it says they were taken away by the venom, veneno, right? By the poison or the venom. It means they're dead, right? They got hit with hydra blood dipped arrows, that poison is going to kill them. So everyone who he hit died. The rest of them, reliqui, right? The rest, however, when ubi, right? When they saw this, hoc viderunt. Hoc is accusative, right? Neuter. Viderunt is just perfect tense. So when they saw this or saw this thing, meaning they see all their friends dying, they veterunt, they turned their terga, their backs, right? So they turned their backs, meaning they turned around and they sought. So petierunt is actually petiverunt. This is called syncopation, sort of the shortening version of it. But it's the verb petere, to look for. So they sought, it's perfect tense, they sought salutem, safety, right? So they literally are looking for safety. They're trying to run away. And they sought safety kind of by means of flight, fuga, right? With flight or through flight, you might say, or in flight even. It means they ran away, right? So they're looking for safety by running away is kind of what you're getting at. So that's this chapter. And again, it's another violent chapter where, of course, Hercules is not, looking to negotiate, but the centaurs obviously are not, necessarily looking to have a conversation either. They come in, they're mad, and they're immediately trying to kill Pholus. Hercules is defending Pholus, right? Even though, he didn't give him the line to begin with, but this is his new friend. So he defends him by just murdering all the centaurs, right? It's a very sort of classic Hercules move to kind of fight violence with violence, because that's what he does. But he also incorporates an element from his previous labors here by using the arrows that are dipped with hydra blood. And you're going to see how that plays out in the next section when we kind of bring this all to an end. But hopefully this made some sense. The grammar here, pretty straightforward, nothing really too crazy. If there's anything you have questions with or any grammar I can help you with or any questions on my translation, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'll answer whatever questions you have and be happy to help you. But otherwise, just keep reading it. Like I said, read it a second time, read it a third time if you have to. And the more you read it and treat it as a story and something that you're reading aloud and not just like a puzzle you're solving, the more you read it, the more it'll make sense and it'll start to click. And hopefully you'll have a much easier time of understanding what's going on. Good luck.